from Joe and Zachary's Survival. I'm going to make a video through the course of this weekend making jerky. I've been making jerky for over 20 years now, and this weekend we're going to do venison jerky. You can do beef, it doesn't matter as long as it's a red meat, you know, it all tastes pretty good. So we're going to go from frozen right now, and then I'll get it all cut up later on, and we'll put it into a brine overnight and get it in the smoker tomorrow. Some of it will be done by tomorrow night, the rest will be done the following day, and I'll just go through the whole entire process. We're going to smoke it using maple, which I enjoy. That hickory is good too, but I really like maple. So anyway, we'll get this started, and we'll be back when... As you can see here, we're going to do a smaller batch today. I can actually fit almost twice this in my smoker, I would think, if I really wanted to pack it in. And these are just, when I cut up the deer, Zach and I we got 2 deer last year. And so when I cut it up knowing I'm going to do jerky, I'll just take part of that neck that looks good and do it as neck jerky, or maybe a roast and use that for jerky. So it makes it nice. Some of the deer we bring in to get processed, and the other ones we cut up ourselves. And it just works out real good this way when I cut it up myself, because, you know, why pay somebody else to cut it into steaks or roast if I'm going to be making it into jerky? So, but this is what it looks like when it's all coming out of the freezer. Okay, so this is the actual smoker that I use now. I've had several, and I made this one myself, and this has got to be probably my 10th one. I try different things, but I really like this one, and it seems to work really good. Real simple. I know it's April 1st, and we still have snow on the ground here in Minnesota. Pain in the butt. But if we can just look inside. There, I've just got simple racks. Actually, these ones I went and got. They're just barbecue racks, and I made the smoker to fit the racks. And then I use electric plates. I've used gas before. I don't like that as much. I can't seem to regulate the heat, and I actually think that the moisture that comes from your open flame in there makes the meat longer, you know, to dry out and stuff. So it just makes it moister to me. So I prefer that. I've got 2 plates. When it's a little bit warmer out, you can just get by with 1. But if I'm doing it and it's 20 below outside in the winter, and which is a great time to do it, I really like that because the air is so dry. Then I run both plates, and I can adjust it, you know, fairly well. So not a whole lot of rocket science to doing it. Basically, you just got to put your meat in. You want smoke for a certain amount of time. You want to keep the temperature pretty consistent through the whole entire thing, and let it go for a long time, and it works real well. So, but that's what it looks like. Well, here we are. The meat has thawed out enough. It doesn't have to be totally thawed out. It does cut up easier when it's a little bit frozen, but you know, regardless, either way, it's ready to go. Normally I do this upstairs at the kitchen table, but they're up there watching a movie, and it'll probably be too loud. I got my cutting board, and I always cut it up with the fillet knife. I love fillet knives. I think that every kitchen should just have fillet knives in it. I got a pan that I put the good cut up jerky in, and I got a pan that I'll throw the scrap stuff in. So anyway, I'm going to unpackage one of those, and we'll start cutting it up. We've got it unpackaged now. When you're doing the venison, we always have that silver skin on there. So you want to get rid of any of that you can. And you're going to get some lines of it that run through the meat in the centers, especially when you get into the lower part of the legs and stuff. And that's, you know, don't worry about that. I leave that in. It's chewy, but you know, it works fine. You want to get any of the fat that you can off on the venison. Much more crucial on the venison than it is for beef. And then when I cut it, I just kind of fillet it here. And a couple of the pieces I'll do thinner, just so they get done earlier. Like this right here, you can see there's a strip of silver skin in here. It's not a big deal, so you're still fine. This is maybe a 1/4 inch thick. Some of them I will do 3/8 of an inch thick. And then some of them will, you know, end up being thinner, so, and those will just get done sooner. So, and the kids eat it right up, so it doesn't last very long anyway. And now, you want to cut with the grain if possible. But back when I first started doing this, and which years ago, but all I could really get was round steak. And with the round steak, you know, you get it as about a 1/2 inch thick, and I would cut it the opposite direction, and it still turns out just fine. You don't have when you want to go with the grain, but don't worry about it. Jerky's jerky. It's easy enough to do. So far now we have 2 of those 4 packages are cut up, and this is actually going to be a bigger batch than I thought. If you can see that, that's 2 packages. Just keep in mind when you go to the store and get jerky, all your pieces are fairly uniform. They're not going to be when you're cutting up your own, and who cares? They all taste good. You're going to get some real big ones, you're going to get small ones. As long as you can fit it on the rack, it's worth smoking. And this is how much waste I've had so far. Probably just throw that to the dogs tonight. If it was beef, I usually take this and throw it in a fry pan and cook it up and have a little snack. One thing, if you do want to spend the money and buy like an eye of round or whatever, you can get real uniform pieces of meat in the beef and stuff. When I do the beef jerky, my favorite thing to do it with is the chuck roast. They come about 1.5 inches thick, inch and a half thick. You just cut it right up, and it has marbly fat in there. And for long-term storage, you wouldn't want any fat because it'll go bad. But as fast as it gets eaten around here, and as good as that tastes, I just love it. So, unless if you're doing short-term, go buy yourself a cheap chuck roast beef and cut that up and smoke it, and it's absolutely delicious. I'll keep cutting this up and. Well, we have it all cut up now. We ended up out of those 4 packages this much meat. Not too bad. We got some nice big pieces, and of course ended up with some small ones as well. But this is how much, that's the only waste that I got out of it. Like I said before, if it was beef, I would fry it up. But this being venison, you could fry this up, it would taste great. But the silver skin, it'd be like chewing on a piece of gum. So, not what I want to do. So now I'm going to take I've been doing the same recipe, like I said, for over 20 years. That's pretty much what a recipe card looks like after that long. It gets kind of covered. I've got it written down a few times, but I know it by heart, but I always take out the card. So anyway, I want to try to keep this short. I hate when the YouTube videos get long and drawn out. So if this gets too long, we'll edit it down. One thing with this, I have a brother-in-law that likes jerky that's teriyaki, and I don't much care for teriyaki. But what I did for him was I just added teriyaki sauce to this, and it actually, he liked it. I don't know, I'm not much care for when it gets real sweet like that. But adding some soy. I got some Worcestershire sauce. Garlic powder. A little pepper. One thing I do add into it, just because it's in the recipe, is this accent, which is MSG. And I don't know, you read so much on the internet. When I started this, there was no internet. About how this is supposed to be bad for you. You can take it out. I've taken it out before. It doesn't really affect it that much, but I don't know. It doesn't seem to affect me when it's in there either, so what's the difference? I just stick with the recipe. We got onion powder. And I figured you have your recipe that you want to do this with. If you want this one, you can just ask for it, and I can always post it. And 1 teaspoon of liquid smoke goes in here, and even though I do it in the smoker, the recipe calls for liquid smoke, you can do this in your oven. We'll talk later when I'm doing it about the temperature. I like to keep it about 118 to 120. And you can get that out of your stove by just putting it on lowest setting and opening up the door a little bit. And it has the liquid smoke in it. So that's all the ingredients. And we mix it all up. And when the kids were little, my oldest daughter Sarah, who is now 22, going to St. Cloud State College, she would sit on that counter when she was about 2 feet tall. And this is the part the kids can do. You give them this plastic little mixer and she would mix it up, and oh, she would love it. And I have experimented doing double batches of this because this bowl obviously is big enough to do a double batch. But, you know, it turned out okay, but after doing it a few times, I don't think you quite get the same taste out of it as if you just do the one batch in several bowls. So we've got that, and then I just start putting meat in there. What I like to do is get it in here, push it down. They suggest that you turn it every few hours. I never do. I just put it in and get it in the refrigerator, and it's always good. You want to get it so you just get enough in there so that everything is covered like this. Kind of pat it down. Like when you were a kid, you were making a mud pie. You would just pat it and the liquid would come up. So when it's all done, I don't know if you can see that. Maybe I'll grab the camera. Oh, Worcestershire bottle. So then it looks like that, see? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it, just a piece of foil over that glass bowl, and then I'm going to put it in the refrigerator. And then I'm going to continue to do the same amount of ingredients for the next bowls until I've got it all done. Okay, so they're all in there. There's the first 3. I got one snuck down there on the bottom. And they're just going to sit in here overnight. It says to do it for at least 10 hours, and I don't know what time it is now, but usually mine are in for, you know, a good 12 hours or so. But and then tomorrow morning we will get them out on the smoker. I wanted to do one more little segment here tonight. I told you that I use maple. You can use hickory. I've used oak. That works good too. And you can buy apples, really good also. And you can buy all that stuff at the store in chips. But I'm lucky enough to have maple trees on my property here. And so I just grab a log and I use the saw there to cut it up. And what I'll do is I'll cut it up into like 1/8-inch strips. And the sawdust usually blows against the sliding glass door in the back of the garage there, or against the wall wherever I have it. You can do sticks of it like that, doesn't matter. I just cut it up, and then what I do is I just sweep up all the sawdust, and the chunks that I grab, the 1/8-inch pieces, just break them in your hand and throw that in the pan. And then the sawdust starts smoking really quite fast, and then the chips go for a long time after that. And I don't soak anything in water, nothing like that, and I've never had it flame up on me. So that's all I do, and that's what I'll be using tomorrow when we make the jerky.